What if the financial world as we know it is on the verge of a seismic shift? For decades, institutions like the IMF and World Bank have been the architects of globalization, steering the global economy with Western interests at the helm. But now, a new power is emerging, a coalition of nations uniting under the BRICS banner, ready to challenge this dominance. The United States, once the unrivaled kingpin of global finance, now faces a rival force that could rewrite the rules entirely. Could this be the end of a one-sided financial order? As BRICS builds its own institutions and questions the status quo, the cracks in the global economic framework are becoming impossible to ignore. Sovereignty, reform, and the future of financial power are now at the center of an unprecedented battle. Is this the beginning of a multipolar world, or just another fleeting power struggle? What you're about to discover will flip your perspective on the financial system. And trust me, this is only the beginning. Have you ever wondered if institutions like the IMF and World Bank are truly global champions, or just instruments of Western dominance? For decades, these financial titans have shaped economies with their loans and policies, but critics, including Donald Trump, have exposed their inefficiencies and biases. Their influence often comes at a cost: sovereignty. Developing nations must grapple with austerity measures that seem more like a stranglehold than a lifeline. Is this really the cooperation globalization promised? The cracks in this system are becoming harder to ignore. Multilateralism, once a beacon of unity, now seems more like a double-edged sword. These financial institutions, pillars of globalization, often impose reforms that perpetuate inequality. From Africa's resource-rich lands to Latin America's struggling economies, the ripple effects have been devastating. Yet, these struggles have also sparked something remarkable: a growing demand for reform. Could this be the moment we've all been waiting for, a shift toward fairness and autonomy? The rise of BRICS nations is a testament to this shift. With initiatives like the New Development Bank, they're taking a stand against Western-centric governance. But here's the kicker: this is just the beginning. Imagine what's unfolding behind the scenes, reshaping the financial world as we know it. Don't miss the opportunity to uncover the stories that the mainstream won't tell you. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. There's a whole world of untold truths waiting for you. What if the United States decided to reshape its relationship with global financial institutions? Project 2025 is a bold proposal from a U.S. think tank advocating a reduced reliance on multilateral organizations like the IMF and World Bank. By prioritizing bilateral agreements, this plan seeks to reclaim sovereignty and redefine financial partnerships. It's a striking departure from the traditional embrace of globalization, raising questions about the future of American influence in global economics. This proposal doesn't just signal a policy shift. It's a philosophical challenge to the very structure of multilateralism. Advocates argue that such reforms could streamline efficiency and better serve national interests, but critics warn of potential ripple effects. Could the world economy handle a pivot this dramatic? And how would this impact the delicate balance of power that these institutions have upheld for decades? The answers are as complex as the proposal itself. Meanwhile, this move could inadvertently align with the ambitions of BRICS nations, who have long sought to challenge Western dominance in global financial governance. If the U.S. begins to withdraw its influence, would that leave room for BRICS to step in and reshape the rules? These competing visions of sovereignty and globalization are set to collide, making this one of the most pivotal turning points in recent financial history. For years, the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have been vocal about their dissatisfaction with global financial institutions. They see the IMF and World Bank as relics of Western dominance, designed to serve the interests of a select few. In response, they've launched their own alternatives like the New Development Bank (NDB), signaling a bold push for reform. This isn't just resistance. It's a strategic move to challenge the very framework of globalization as we know it. The NDB and similar initiatives are more than just symbols of sovereignty. They're practical tools for rewriting the rules of financial governance. By providing loans and investments without the austerity measures often imposed by traditional institutions, the BRICS nations are creating a lifeline for developing countries. But here's the twist: this isn't just about economics. It's about rewriting the global narrative, shifting the balance of power away from the West and toward a multipolar world. The real question is, can these reforms truly disrupt the status quo? As BRICS nations gain momentum, their efforts are not going unnoticed. Their growing influence has sparked a global debate about the future of financial institutions and the ideals of multilateralism. The stage is set for a clash between old systems and emerging powers, and the implications could reshape global economics in ways we've never seen before. What happens when a global superpower like the United States steps back from the very financial institutions it helped create? A potential withdrawal from the IMF and World Bank would send shockwaves through the economic landscape, challenging the foundations of globalization. While this move might emphasize sovereignty, it risks creating a vacuum, one that BRICS nations seem more than ready to fill. Could this unintended alignment with BRICS' vision signal the dawn of a new financial order? The ripple effects of such a shift could be extraordinary. By reducing its reliance on multilateralism, the U.S. may inadvertently boost the credibility of BRICS-led initiatives like the New Development Bank. This isn't just a pivot, it's a rebalancing of global power. Developing nations, long beholden to Western financial systems, might finally see an alternative to austerity-driven policies. Is this the disruption the world has been waiting for, or the start of a financial arms race? Here's the thing, this story is far from over. With the global financial system teetering on the edge of transformation, the stakes have never been higher. If you want to be among the few who truly understand the forces shaping the world's economic future, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is your chance to stay ahead of the curve and uncover the truths that others overlook. Don't just watch history unfold. Be part of the journey. The IMF often presents itself as a beacon of stability for struggling economies, but its policies have left a trail of controversy. In nations like Nigeria, Brazil, and Venezuela, IMF-led reforms have frequently come with strings attached, demanding austerity measures that, while intended to stabilize economies, often deepen social and economic inequalities. The promise of globalization through financial aid sometimes feels more like a compromise of sovereignty, forcing nations into a cycle of dependence. Nigeria's oil-rich economy, for example, faced widespread unrest after IMF-backed structural adjustments increased fuel prices and devalued its currency. Meanwhile, in Brazil, austerity programs led to cuts in social services, leaving millions in precarious conditions. Venezuela's experience highlights another side of the story, where conditional loans did little to prevent a devastating economic collapse. These case studies reveal the stark realities of how multilateralism can strain, rather than support, vulnerable nations. Yet, these challenges have also sparked resistance. Across the globe, calls for reform are growing louder, with leaders and economists alike questioning whether the IMF's framework is truly fit for the modern era. As nations grapple with the fallout of these policies, the demand for a more equitable and inclusive financial system gains momentum. Could this discontent be the catalyst for a global financial revolution? As dissatisfaction with traditional financial institutions reaches a boiling point, BRICS nations are stepping up with bold solutions. Their advocacy for reform isn't just talk. It's a calculated push to redefine global financial governance. At the heart of their efforts lies the New Development Bank, an ambitious alternative to the IMF and World Bank. Unlike the old guard, the NDB champions a fresh approach, offering loans without the crushing austerity measures that have burdened so many economies. But the NDB is only the beginning. BRICS nations are developing alternative payment systems that challenge the dominance of Western-controlled platforms like SWIFT. These initiatives are more than financial tools. They're statements of sovereignty. They signal a break from globalization's one-size-fits-all model, paving the way for a multipolar financial world. Could this be the dawn of a new era in which no single power dictates the terms? What's fascinating is how this movement is gaining traction far beyond BRICS. Other countries are watching closely, inspired by the possibilities these reforms could unlock. If financial systems are being reimagined, the implications will be profound, not just for nations, but for the entire global economy. The question is, can these emerging platforms truly rival the old institutions, or is this just the first step in a much larger transformation? In the tug-of-war between globalization and sovereignty, the world is witnessing a dramatic shift in economic philosophy. Globalization, once hailed as the ultimate path to prosperity, is now being questioned for its role in widening inequalities and eroding local autonomy. Meanwhile, the idea of sovereignty is making a bold comeback as nations strive to reclaim control over their economic policies. This ideological clash is reshaping how financial strategies are designed and implemented worldwide. The BRICS nations exemplify this shift, challenging the Western-dominated framework that has long defined global financial governance. Their push for reform highlights a deeper tension. Can a balance be struck between the benefits of interconnectedness and the need for autonomy? As these emerging powers advocate for a more equitable financial system, the very foundations of multilateralism are being put to the test. Is globalization evolving, or is it being unraveled? This shift isn't happening in isolation. It's influencing everything from trade policies to the way nations approach financial institutions. The interplay between sovereignty and globalization is no longer a theoretical debate. It's a lived reality shaping the future of global economics. What remains to be seen is whether this philosophical pivot will lead to a fairer system or deepen existing divisions in an already fragile world. Have you ever wondered how much of the financial world is carefully hidden behind closed doors? What you've just uncovered is more than a story about the US and BRICS. It's a glimpse into a battle shaping the future of global power. But this is just scratching the surface. Behind every policy, reform, and institution lies a web of influence that few ever take the time to unravel. And now, you're one of the select few who sees the cracks forming in this colossal system. Think about it. How different would the world look if the rules of globalization were rewritten by emerging powers? What if sovereignty and reform became the driving forces in finance instead of dominance and control? The answers aren't just fascinating, they're transformative. These are the kinds of insights that define those who succeed, who thrive, and who understand the forces shaping our future. So, here's the challenge. Don't let this knowledge stop here. Become part of the conversation. Dive deeper, and take your place among the few who truly understand what's happening beneath the surface. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and make sure you never miss a chance to uncover the truths shaping tomorrow's world. The journey doesn't end here, it's just beginning.